let's go ahead and welcome Kini up here.
Hello, everyone. I don't know what to do.
Yes, I know. There we go.
Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for having me. All right.
It's always a journey up into this chair when you're so short. Okay, if you want to go ahead and just kind of give us your background, tell us your tale.
That was just, I guess, a short glimpse of my story. I started sewing when I was 10 years old from my aunt. It was passed on from my grandfather to her, and it was just a sewing class that she put on for my cousins and I, and it was short-lived because I was the only one that showed up to the second sewing class. And my parents always told me from a young age that I always asked for art supplies for Christmas or for my birthday, and they really nurtured that and didn't cut that short. So they always gave me that whenever I was young. And when my aunt shared that knowledge with me and taught me how to sew, it was like I could press print on my brain and kind of show people a 3D image. It's hard as a creative person to share what goes on in our brain sometimes. So having that way to tell people what is going on in here was great to kind of share that with everyone creatively on paper, and then go ahead and start to sew and create in that sense as well too. But that was just the beginning journey of creating and getting to learn the technical side. After learning that part, I wanted to kind of put myself through school. I knew that my parents couldn't pay for it. They worked just regular 9-to-5 jobs. So I had to find ways to go through college, and with FAFSA and financial aid and scholarships, I put myself through Honolulu Community College and tried to make a career out of it. In 2000, it wasn't really, I guess, a place where you could actually become a designer here in Hawaii. It was still young and fresh. Design and Hawaii, or fashion in general in Hawaii, really wasn't a thing, and people didn't recognize us for being fashionable. I think it was still, in the US, it was still being known as we were living in grass shacks. If you think about it now, we're like just 20 years away from that. And I'm gonna show my age, but just 20 years from now, but back then, people really thought that. After college, I did go to New York, and that's what people were sharing with me. Everywhere I traveled, that's what they all thought whenever I told them I was living in Hawaii. Those were still the things that they were telling me, is like, we were living in grass shacks. We only wear mu'us here. So that was kind of like the stigmatism that I didn't want to have. So I wanted to change that, and share that as well too, that we wanted to appreciate that, we love that here, but modernize it as well. So I put myself through HCC, and I wanted to still learn a little bit more. And I applied to FIT in New York, and I went there for 2 years. While I was there, I was taking a lot of classes that was teaching me almost the same things, or pretty much the same things that HCC was teaching me. And I was trying to get an advanced class or an advanced test to not take a lot of the classes. But in the fashion industry, you can't really jump, or you can't do that there. You just have to go through the motions and retake everything. So I thought of it as kind of a waste if I'm spending all this money and I was going out of state. So it was almost double the price there. So I dropped out, and I decided to come back home. and try to create a business here in Hawaii. And it was just a lot of trial and error. And at that time, Project Runway was just coming up. And that was my journey to just try and get onto the show. And I tried out 6 times. And on my 6th time, I basically just threw my hands up and said, take it or leave it. This is my strongest suit. If you like it, if you don't like it now, then this is all you're going to get. And they loved it because it was all I could do. This was the strongest part of my design that I could show. And it was my denim collection that I put out that year. And I put my heart and soul into it. And it really showed my design aesthetic and my, I guess, character and my personality as well, too. To be quite frank, when I was doing the casting, I kind of had that attitude, like take it or leave it. And I didn't have this nervousness behind me as well, too. If you don't know, reality TV, they're looking for a cast. They're looking for personality as well, too. So you have to give that. Sometimes, or I tell people this all the time, they're looking for a personality before the talent. It's more a reality show than a talent show. Whenever you're kind of signing up for that, they're looking for cast members. And it is the truth because they tell you that whenever you're getting casted. That's what they tell you when you're on TV or when you're getting your emails. You can be a finalist. You can go all the way through the whole process until you're a cast member. That's when you're on the show. So it was me trying to show them my talent and kind of show them my personality as well too. And that's what kind of got me onto the show. And I wanted to just make them known that Hawaii was more than what I said and give them a lot more talent. But that was my journey from then until getting onto the show. But basically just showing them that creativity was a lot more than what we were seeing at that time, which was 15 years from now. Yeah, 15 years ago. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so let's jump back to when you were in that sewing class. So first class comes around, there's lots of people, and then it's just you. And what do you think was driving that? I mean, was sewing sort of falling out of trend? Or, I mean, it's a skill you're always going to need. So why was it not as, why weren't others so enthusiastic?
I think for me, at that time, I wanted to make it a career and a business because it was something that I loved to do. So I wanted to, in the beginning, being around my family was the driving force of everything that I did. Being around my family always was something that I loved to do. That they're my inspiration through everything that I did. Getting to hang out with them all the time. And it was always something that we always talked about, creating this family business. So it was always something that I had in the back of my head where if I could make this a career, then I could make this design company and I can be around my family all the time and I can hire them and we can always have fun. So it was always this kind of mentality that I had in my mind where if I create a design house and make a career out of it, then I can have my family around me all the time. So that was pretty much my driving force to extending this legacy that I learned from my aunt into this business and making me go through the whole process of design.
And so is your family still really involved with you to this day?
Yeah, they are. I have my cousin still runs my shop side. My other cousin still runs my PR side and marketing. So we are still very involved. It's still a family business, and we try to not kill each other throughout all of this, and we try to separate this as business and family as well too. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so I mean, you were building the dream that you had, like just how you were printing the designs out of your mind, you also built this house that you had dreamt about.
Exactly.
So, I mean, going from here to FIT, were you able to kind of showcase the inspiration that you had specifically from Hawaii and specifically from your culture there? Were they receptive? Like, what kind of experience did you have with that?
Not really at that time. It wasn't. At the time, it was more of me trying to learn skills and just absorb as much as I could, and take in as much as I could in the environment while I was there. And as much as I could, I was trying to just, I guess, share. And if it was being let out that way, then so be it. But I wasn't trying to, I guess, exude that as well. But for me, during the time I was in New York, I was really trying to learn as much. When I did go to New York, that was my first time ever going. I got accepted and I basically packed everything and went there with nothing, and not knowing anything about New York at all. My two aunts went with me and they pretty much helped me learn the whole city. And after a week there, they left me there and I was left to do and learn everything.
Your own.
Yeah. So it was pretty much just a learning experience for me. And I was trying to just soak in everything throughout that whole experience there. Yeah.
So what would you say are some of like the main lessons you took away from your time there?
It gave me a lot of independence there. New York can eat you alive, and it really helped me grow as a person, and really made me understand what Hawaii had to offer and what the mainland had to offer. And I just took it as if I'm going to be learning or creating this business, I need to learn all the aspects of a business and the fashion industry as much as possible, and what entails in this whole industry. And within the fashion industry, there's so many hats that we have to wear. So what is it that I want to do? And if it's all of it, what is it that I need to learn? So that's basically what I had to do when I was there, interning under businesses, interning under fashion houses, and learning what a fashion designer did, and what that entailed as well, and getting to know what I guess the focus was as a fashion designer, what a creative director did, a stylist, but pretty much just soaking up all of that information.
And I know balancing the design, fashion side with running a business can be the most challenging. And so how did you go about kind of really learning to navigate that? And how do you continue to navigate that now?
So that brings me to like now, I guess. That's still a challenge for, I guess, as a creative person and then as a business owner, it still is difficult to be the business part and then the creative side. I still juggle with that every single day, as far as trying to create this collection in my mind that I want to be just go over the top and spend all this money creating a 60-piece collection. And then the business side of me is telling me, no, you can't do all these things. So it's really difficult to pull back. But then, you want all these fabulous things as a creative designer. But then knowing what that boundaries are and focus on what truly is your mission, is your vision, and what you really do stand for as a fashion designer. So that really helps me focus on what I really want to do in the industry here in Hawaii. But every single day, it's still a challenge. I can't say it's easy. It's still really hard to be the business side and the creative side. I think that's one lesson, I think, going into it is having someone take care of that business side, and then having to be the creative side is great. I would love to just be the creative side. Having to do the business side, I don't enjoy that part at all. If I could just do the business side, great. If I could just do the creative side, that would be great as well too. But to do both sometimes at the same time is really difficult. Yeah.
So in thinking about kind of your brand and what you want to put out there, what kinds of designs you want to do and pursue and how you want to portray that. So what goes into kind of developing that, and where do you think you stand now versus where you were back then?
So prior to the pandemic, we were focused on, we were more show focused, meaning we were doing a lot of fashion shows and trying to promote our brand and get our stuff out there as much as possible. Now we are moving into our customer part and product. So now we got the customer, and now we're trying to figure out what the customer wants and what the product looks like. So those are kind of like our switches and that we're trying to bring into. And that's where our business is going into now. And that's where we saw the numbers kind of change as well, but still bringing the customer in as far as marketing, but not doing the whole show side. When people see fashion shows, a lot of times people don't notice that the fashion show part is part of marketing, and it really doesn't generate any money at all. Whenever people put on a fashion show, it's a lot of money that's lost throughout that. And we weren't paying attention to what the customer really wanted and what the product looked like. Especially for in Hawaii as much as possible. We were trying to juggle that part, looking at sales in the mainland. That's where we were doing a lot of our show stuff. But now we're focused on what our customers want here in Hawaii, and what products look like as well too. And that's helping our business a lot more. And just in general, what our industry needs too, and what we're kind of giving back to that. As far as like sustainability, and making sure that it falls in line with all of that, with our mission and our vision as well too. Yeah.
Yeah, so in looking at, what the customers want and what kind of product you're creating, what are some of the patterns that you've noticed and kind of changes you've made to address that need?
When we're looking at our collections, we want to make sure that it's generational. So that's one of the things that we look at. And sustainability. So whenever we're creating a product, we want to make sure that it can get passed down to the next generation, so they can pass it down to their daughter, their son. It's something that can leave in their closet and they can wear it multiple seasons. And then for sustainability, we want to make sure that our collections aren't being worn by a lot of people, so you're not going to a party and seeing it on multiple people. So it's very minimal, but effective as far as SKU numbers. So we have multiple SKU numbers, but minimal quantities. And it's still generating a lot more revenue in that sense. And still trying to get our designs across as much as possible too. When I think that's the business side and the creative side kind of mixing with each other. When we're doing those collections where we have 22 SKUs, but the quantities are still only at 22, meaning 22 SKUs, meaning 22 designs. And then our SKUs, so size per run is small to 6X or 3X. And we only have 2 per size. So that's only 12 pieces per design. we look at that for market research to see what is being sold, what designs are being sold, what sizes. So when you see a collection that's really big, but the sizes is really small, it's just to find out what sizes is being sold, what styles are popular, kind of to find out your market and understand what your customers are wanting at that time. And you do that about like 2 or 3 seasons to get to know who and what your customer is looking for. Yeah.
So it's like A/B testing on a grand scale.
Yeah. But still not trying to diffuse your market too, and still trying to be sustainable in a sense.
Right.
Coming from the fashion industry, we're the second most polluted industry, so we try to think of that as well too, and as much as possible, we're from Hawaii, so you can't, it's just whole juggling part of trying to be sustainable here in Hawaii, as much as possible. Think about that too.
Yeah, what are, in your business, what are some other ways that you try to address that, sustainability balanced with creativity and really having a brand?
So our printing as well, we do sublimation printing. The paper that we utilize from that, we take that and we have gift wrapping. We use that for pattern making paper. We utilize that paper for sublimation for other things. We use our packing for shipment. Our orders, we minimize all of that, so we don't put any fluff in our shipping. It's just our packing envelope, the order slip, so we minimize all of that so you don't get any kind of like tissue. I don't like when you get an order and you have to throw away all the trash in it, so we minimize all of that. It's pretty much just a Ziploc bag that you can reuse, and you can put other things in it, and you don't get anything else from it. So I tried to cut back on all of that kind of stuff. Whenever we're cutting, we make sure we lay out pieces from our markers and cut less, so we don't have too much cutaways that we can just throw away. And then we recycle as well too. So we have fabric to recycle, paper recycle in our studio as well. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So a lot of your designs kind of blend modern and traditional influences. And so I guess this is kind of 2 questions. What have been your largest influences, and does culture play a role in that? And if so, what's the role?
So culture does play a role in our Hawaii collections. And it usually is inspired by a flower or leaf that is significant to me, my family, or something that is within our everyday life. For example, we launched our Puamelia collection twice already. It was a plumeria tree that was planted in 2001 when me and my family moved out to Kapolei. We got our Hawaiian homes. It was our plumeria, the first tree that we planted right in front of our house. And our graphic artist took that photo, digitized it, and that was our first print. So that was kind of like how we tell that story. And then flowers that we've done, like Pakalana, that was my mom's favorite flower. So those are kind of the ideas that we have behind our prints. So it always tells this deeper story as well. And then design-wise, whenever I create more of my modern designs, it's always inspired by, it's a full mood board of what I put together, and it may not, to the general eye, it may not look like what it is, but sometimes it's just the feeling, because inspiration can come from your feeling or what you're going through at that time. And you can personally tell what it is, but sometimes you can't visually see it. So as designers, sometimes it's really hard to explain like what that looks like or what it comes out to be. So that's where some of our mood boards will just come to fruition. So whenever we create a mood board, we will just put it on a wall and we'll just slap a bunch of things on it. And it's ever growing. throughout. So if we come across colors or a picture, we'll just put it on there. And if it's a word that we're feeling at that time, that mood board will kind of grow from there. And that's where designs can kind of stem from whenever I'm creating a collection. Yeah.
So it's really dynamic. It's an ongoing kind of addition.
Yeah.
I really like, when you're talking about your puamelia and how it wasn't just plumeria, it is a very specific plumeria.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's very cultural as well, right? To have that connection with a individual plant. Are there other examples, of that? You talked about the pakalana. Are there other inspirations where it was an individual thing that led to a design?
The recent one that we did, or I think it was last year, we did a print, a Haleakala print. This was before the Lahaina fires. We honored, the whole year we did a bunch of prints for Maui. And it was to honor my family in Maui. My family's from Maui. And I sent my niece to Haleakala to take a bunch of photos up there. And we did silver sword. We did the flowers on the silver sword. But I had her go up there and take a bunch of, just her and her family take a bunch of photos up there. And we pulled all of that inspiration to create that print from there. And then when we did the photo shoot, we were thinking of doing it up there at Haleakala, but I scratched that whole idea because I didn't want the footprint of us going up there or just saying like, here you go, there's more people going up there to Haleakala. And I just don't like that idea of people just going there just to see all of this stuff, but taking it in a modern way. So we just did like a street style shoot and envisioning it in a kind of just a different way. But it was taking photos or getting images, pulling that and extracting it and creating prints from that. So usually what my graphic artist does is she'll just take the photos, I'll sketch it out really quick or go over it with like a piece of paper, and then she'll take those images, my sketches, and put it together. And then she'll create it as well too. She'll create another print as well too. But we've been working together for now like 7 years. And I won't see something for maybe like 3 months, and then she'll send something over and it'll be almost to what I was thinking of. And then we'll just change like a little bit here and there. But that's takes years of working with someone artistically to kind of understand where to be at and understand like the design aesthetic, I guess. And understand layout, size, and scale. But it usually takes us maybe like 3 adjustments whenever we're creating prints. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really interesting too, kind of navigating that relationship. So how did you meet this person and how did you enter into this?
She was actually an intern, and she started working with me, and it was trial and error, the beginning part. But she looked at a lot of my past prints and got to understand how I liked a lot of designs that I did. But it took maybe 2 years for her to understand how the Kini Zamora look is. And she knows already how to understand it. And I'll send something back to her if it doesn't look like me. And she's like, I need something else, a little bit more like raw, or it just needs to look more the naivete of prints. And she'll just send me something really kind of almost stupid looking. And that's exactly what I needed. It looks too perfect. But that's what she understood was from, I think, the second year or third year. That's exactly what we understood. And she understood that it just needed that kind of touch to it. But it did take a lot. Like, I think working with designers, you understand that too. When you're working with a designer, you work under them for so long that you start to understand their style or their design aesthetic. And you will understand their design theory as well. So it's great to go to school to learn the technical side, but you intern and work with a designer to get to know kind of the deeper meaning and deeper understanding of the designer. And then you go off and you learn your own as well too. Yeah.
So she was able to get in your head.
Yes.
She lives there now. You're never letting her leave. But that's that's really beautiful that you have that kind of checks and balances. That you're really designing kind of together, back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in thinking about balance, how do you balance kind of getting in front of what's trendy and hot with kind of staying true to what you want to do, and with the ever-changing nature of fashion, how do you deal with that?
I try to stay away from the media and just what is happening. It's great that we're so disconnected in a sense, being in Hawaii, and for me, I don't mind being a little different, and pulling together so many different, designs. Whenever I'm looking at something, or whenever I'm sketching something, I'll sketch on a bunch of things, or I'll sketch a bunch of things in my sketchbook, and then I'll pull it all together and create this kind of weird looking design. And then I'll just like pull away a bunch of other things. I think that's one thing that I've learned during Project Runway too, is they'll tell me that I did or over design. There's this term over design thing that they constantly use. So whenever I'm sketching out things, I'll kind of put like 10 ideas together. And then I'll start to slowly like erase. And then it'll come out to something really different. Whenever I'm doing something really creative, I'll just throw in the 10 designs, and I know I can't produce something like that. So I think in the back of my head, I'm also always thinking like, can I even make this? Or can I even create something like this, or sold something like this? But I think trying to be creative is really hard. But just the disconnect is where I try to be. So whenever I'm creating a collection, it's staying offline, and just being away from everything. That's the best way for me to be creative. That's just how I do it.
I like that. So you basically throw it all out there and then kind of sculpt it away.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You reveal the design underneath in the clay. I guess let's talk a little bit about Project Runway. So you were on 2 different seasons, and can you kind of give us an introduction to what that's like and what the differences are, and just kind of what your experience was?
So season 13, I went through the whole casting process. That was done. It was open casting when I got on. The whole casting process was really fast. I was accepted. I was a finalist, and within a week, they were flying me to New York to do an on-screen casting process. And we were casted like on a Wednesday. I remember it being like a Wednesday. We were flown to New York, and we got the answer that I was casted. And they gave us the notice that we're going to be gone within a week. So we were flown to New York on a Wednesday, flown back on a Thursday, and then we had to pack that whole week, and then we were flown back for 6 weeks. So it went really quick. And when we went to casting, if you go through reality TV, everything is taken away from you. So you are disconnected. No computers, no phone, no photos, no nothing. You're put in a room with white walls like this. No TV, no nothing. You're given a PA, so they're just standing right outside your room, and then you're told to go outside when your time is ready, to go into A bus, B bus, basically just like, or B van when your time is ready. And it's this hurry up and wait. It's called hard ice or cold ice. Hard ice is you can't talk at all. So you get up, you get ready, and you cannot speak to anyone at all. So you can see people around, you cannot talk at all. So you're sitting in a white van with other contestants and you cannot talk at all. So that was the casting process. On day one, I learned really fast.
Sounds like you're describing a kidnapping.
Exactly.
Blink if you're okay.
That is exactly what it was. I was like, wait a minute, what is happening right now? Are we going to? And then when you're going to this, on camera, it looks really nice, like this fabulous place. You're going through like a hallway, being held there, and then the producers are quietly telling you, okay, now you're gonna walk in and look really excited and do all of these things. And I'm like, are you sure we're in the right place?
You were a hostage.
Yeah.
It's okay to talk about it now.
And that's exactly how it looks. And then you look really excited, and then they swift you away, and now you have to be quiet. After you're told, congratulations, you're casted, you're on this fabulous show, now be quiet, don't tell anybody. You're on a 9-hour flight back home, swifted away, and you're casted. Pack your clothes, you have a week, and you're gonna be back on TV in for 6 weeks. Every other day, you get your task, and then you're getting judged. You get the next day, you're getting your whatever, and then you're judged again. So it was like that from Monday through Friday. Saturdays were interview days, Sundays were off. So that's exactly how you had to do it every single day. And if you can imagine not getting no TV, it was just sleep whenever you could. So in the vans, we were sleeping, waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get mic'd. So it was almost like at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, we were getting demic'd. So that's how the stress level gets built up after week 5. That's the whole process of getting filmed every single day. So you know why people get stressed out or fights happen during that time. That's reality TV for you in a nutshell. But the amazing experience was getting to do all these things in front of a camera, and getting to meet all these people and getting this creative time to do whatever you wanted. With the budget that they gave you, of course, throughout these challenges they give you have $250, but we were just bargaining with people at Mood. The Mood budget, if you know fabric and Mood, it's expensive, very expensive. It's not like $5.99 for a yard of chiffon. Mood is like 10 times that. So when we were going in there with a $250 budget, we were spending that with that. So we were bargaining with the people, like, can you give this to us for like $1? And we were walking out there with a lot of fabric. So that's what we were trying to do that whole time. And we got to know a lot of the workers there, and we got to have the whole Mood to ourselves. Mood is really small. It's on the 3rd floor, and it's maybe the size of this whole floor, like this whole thing. That is how small Mood really is. And we got to run around there, but it really is only 30 minutes to get our fabric. And then throughout the ending part, you're just exhausted because you have no other designs in mind of what's happening. And when it was the finale and we got the announcement that we're going to Fashion Week, it was already the exhaustion of you went through 6 weeks of design process. And then they give you, I felt so unappreciative when they're like, congratulations, and we're sending you to Rome tomorrow. And literally you're packing and you're going to Rome tomorrow. I was like, I am exhausted. Like, I don't want to go to Rome. Because I have to go to Rome tomorrow for 3 days, and then you're flying me back to Hawaii for another 10 hours. Like, I don't want to go to Rome. From New York, we went to Rome for 12 hours. We flew to Rome, which took 12 hours. We're there for 3 days, it wasn't even 3 days. It was basically only 2 days because we landed there a certain amount of time. And then we flew back for another 12 hours. The next day I was flying back to Hawaii. So I was on a plane, I was horrible. I didn't want to go to Rome at all. I felt so unappreciative when that was happening. I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I just want to go home. And then when I came back, it was like almost, that's when I realized when I was on the plane coming back home that did I just really shoot the reality show? And did this all just really happen? Because everything kind of just happened so quickly. And it was already being aired. So everything during that time, we're already in a bubble. Like, you're just kind of sift away and nobody can talk to you. They're really just covering everything around you, meaning like we're being hovered into a van. Nobody can talk to you at all. They're hiding the amount of contestants. So to fake like the amount of people that's on the top or whatever, they don't want anybody to talk to anybody. That's kind of like how it went throughout the ending part. So it was really new to me, and there was no book on how to do this whole thing. There was no understanding on how to manage all of this process. So it was really new to me. And then going on to 2 months later, they asked me to do All Stars. I don't know why I said yes to this, but I agreed to do all of this again. And that part was a little bit easier because I understood the whole process of filming again. And what to do on camera, all of this kind of came a little bit easier, and kind of how to navigate production and what to do, how to get things. So it was a lot easier going through the second step. And then coming back, you just know exactly what to have prepared. But going through the whole All-Stars part, it was a little bit easier because I knew all of this kind of the second part. But of course, if anybody does reality TV, I'm here to help you understand it. It's a lot. Make sure you have all your ducks in a row before you go. It's a lot more than what you expect it to be. But I think the hardest part was, one, not having communication with anybody. Creatively, that's the hardest part. And two, it's really like you can't have anything, no photos, no books, any kind of artwork that you had on your luggage or anything was taken away. So we had one picture window, almost like this, in our room, and IKEA furniture. So basically that was our living situation throughout the day. So you would catch us like by the window, almost like cats, like looking out the window at the Hudson, like jonesing to just go outside. Like that was our Sunday, and we couldn't do anything. And we would go outside one at a time. That's how they would
they let you out for walks.
Yeah. And we would walk with a PA right behind us, like watching our every move.
The PA really sounds like a guard.
Yes, that's how it was. But it was fabulous. It was really good. It was really nice. It was really fun.
That's what you were told to say, isn't it?
I tell people it was good stress. It was good stress. Yeah. And it was a great experience, different experience to have.
And how did the stress and the intensity of that entire experience, when you came back, how did that kind of influence you or change the way you did things?
I guess it helped me with being under pressure and appreciate things in the moment, because at that time I didn't realize,
like freedom.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And look around at what's happening, because you never know at that moment that moment is really happening. Because a lot of times we were just like grumbling, like, why are we sitting here? Why do we have to wait? Or what's happening? Like, we don't know what's happening. But when we're thinking about it now, we're like, why didn't we just look around, or why don't we just appreciate all of these things that were really happening? But I think now, looking back, like I get to kind of appreciate everything. I think there was 2 moments, I guess, when I was in Rome, and we were just sitting around waiting for them to set up the cameras, and me and the other cast members were sitting around, and we asked one of the cameramen to take our picture. And he was like, what do you guys need a picture for? You guys have a whole episode on this. That's way better quality. What do you need like a generic phone photo for? And we kind of looked at each other, we're like, that's right. Like, what do we need this generic photo like of us on the street? Like, there's way better things that's happening. And that's when it clicked in my head, like, this is all happening. Like, it's getting recorded, everything that we're doing, literally everything that we're doing. Yeah. And afterwards, that's when I realized all the things that you're saying, that you're talking about, gets recorded, and they're talking about. And there's a transcriber that's there listening to everything that you're talking about. Yeah. And we find out all those things. I found out about all those things afterwards. The only time they don't listen to you is when you go in the bathroom.
Thank goodness. But so you really didn't know anything about the process. You're just kind of there as a hostage, going through it. And then you learned about it when you were like later, or when you were watching it? Like, when did it become apparent what was happening?
I think after. And then when we talked to production, when they were, because they became friends after, that's when I realized like all these things. When I was saying it out loud, I was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of weird, but it was okay at the moment. And we were talking about it too. Like, we would talk amongst each other. Like, we are going into like a white van that you look outside like that. Nobody knows if this is the van that we're supposed to go in. It just says A on it. Literally, it just said, it was like a white van, unmarked van that said A on it. And they would just tell us, go into A van, make sure you're going to A van. Yeah.
This is not an endorsement to go into any marked vans.
No. Unless you're with production, they're safe.
I guess there's kind of two things. The first is the connections that you made on the show. Did any of those kind of grow into relationships that you had later with other designers, or just kind of networking?
Yeah, so I still talk to a lot of my cast members. They're working for other companies as well too, and we still talk till today, just to kind of catch up and keep that network going and that conversation going as far as how their companies are going, or how the companies that they work for are going. So it's really nice to get to know them, or got to know them, and still like keep that networking going. One of Alexander, he was on my season 13. He works for Coach, and he's one of the accessory designers there. So it's really nice to get to chat with him to see their design process, what they go through. He started with Mark and moved to Coach as well. So it's nice to just like get to know him, or got to know him, and then see their whole process and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, to get that different perspective.
Exactly.
So then the other thing that other than the hostage situation, what stuck out to me in your story was you said that the hardest thing was not being able to talk to anyone else, and to have to design in isolation. So can you talk a little bit about that process, about what that dynamic is like, and how much of an influence you kind of get from others? So
I guess the hard ice part, you get to talk to people afterwards, but they just don't want it. They want the genuine conversation to be caught on camera. So like when you're in a van and something crazy happens and you go get sifted away, they don't want it to be talked in the van. They want it to be on camera, so that's why. But getting to talk to other designers when we're in the workroom, and hearing their experiences, it was nice to get an understanding of their process and their experiences as well, and listening to how their work environment is, and them getting to share all of that. Some of them were a lot more closed to all of that, and they understood whatever you share on television is going to be asked by producers. So that's one of the things that you have to be open about too. Whatever you share on TV or you share to a producer will be not misconstrued, but it will be asked difficultly to another person. So you just have to be careful of how you say things or what you say. That's definitely an issue with production. So a lot of people were a little bit more closed in what they said. So it was hard to get people to talk on camera, but then afterwards they would just say a lot of things. So it was nice to get to know other people. Yeah.
In a safe space.
In a safe space with no mic on.
So I guess how, looking back on that, would you say that you are in a totally different place now, or kind of where are you now in your journey as your brand is expanding?
I think now it's in a totally different space than I was on the show. We were doing a lot more ready to wear at that time, but now we're focused on more of like our island collections. So I still love to do the ready to wear stuff, but it's a hard sell here. So when I talk about product and customer based stuff, that's why we had to move into that. But we still do that for fun and for our custom clients. So our business is two parts now. So we have our custom clients that want to get things custom made to them. And that's pretty much our brides, pageants, or anybody that just wants a custom made piece just for them. It can be a pair of jeans, a dress for a special occasion. We do that side. Or a family set that wants a custom print for their whole family and customized just for them. And then we have our ready-to-wear Hawaiian side. So that's where we split our business. That custom side is where I can be a lot more creative and really show who I am as a designer and kind of work with them to create. And you can see the Kini Zamora side in that side. And then our product and client side is just our ready-to-wear side. So it is different.
So in thinking about the role that community plays, you've been an advocate for young designers in Hawaii and a mentor. And can you talk a little bit about why that's so important to you and how you see the fashion industry in Hawaii evolving?
I think it's important for me to give back to the younger community is because it wasn't there for me. And a lot of people, the doors were closed when I was going through this whole process. So it's nice for me to get to open those doors for a lot of the youth, to understand the whole process of creating or design process, schooling, or even just to go onto the show if you would want to, or any kind of opportunity in the fashion industry. So just understanding that whole side. It wasn't offered or just a simple question was never, and I guess like something that you could even ask. So I want that door to be open for me, where they can just come to me and ask me those kind of questions. So that's where that advocacy comes from, and makes it a lot more easier, I guess, for that generation. And I love to see that now there's more designers seeing that it is more accessible and it is more easier, but then still doing their own research as well too. I would want to see a lot more of that where they're doing more schooling or just understanding the whole design process and going through before they start their own company.
So what's kind of like the main piece of advice you would give to someone who's aspiring to be a designer and to have their own brand?
I say to just be creative as you can. Don't worry about the followers. I tell people this all the time. Don't worry about the followers, they'll come after. Be as creative. We need a lot of creative people. And creativity really sells, and that's what you need in order to start your brand. Don't look at the followers, be creative. Yeah.
Okay, be creative. I think on that note, why don't we go ahead and open it up for questions?
Yes.
I'm just wondering, so if you were to ever, have you ever dealt with creators or writer's block, and if so, how did you get over it?
I have. A lot of times we go through this. I would say go to your comfortable spot or a spot that grounds you. For me, it's going to the beach or spending time with family. A lot of times I tell people to walk away from it or end your project that you're working on because it's only going to get worse. Whenever we are done with the day, our sewing projects, and we are screwing up on that project, we shut it down and we end the day. For me, it's going to the beach. It's having a family day that really helps me refocus. And literally, if we are finding ourselves at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, seam ripping things and not working out, we will end the day. Like, it's time for lunch. It's time for us to walk away from this project and move to something else. That's kind of like our writer's block and our time to take a break. It really is that kind of like that creative time for you to step away from it and refocus on something else. But finding that place where you can kind of be yourself. But I would figure that out before you start any project, is find that happy place and really walk away from it. Before you even start any project, I think too, is allow yourself like an extra day to have this time, because you never know what's gonna happen. Some problem might arise. So you wanna allow this like extra time just in case that ever happens, where you have to go get coffee or walk around the block or get a drink or something. That might happen. So yeah, find a happy place. Always find that like place that will kind of ground you. Yes.
I have a question about the sublimation.
Mm-hmm.
For your sublimation, what type of fabric do you use, and do you have to condition it before you put it through that process?
No, we don't have to condition it. I know it has to be a certain % of polyester to get the color vibrancy. But we've done chiffon, sequin, canvas, satin, a whole bunch of different fabrics. It just has to have a polyester blend in it, but testing out a bunch of them. Our printer is downstairs from us. They'll test out a bunch of different stuff for us, and they're open to testing all of that stuff for us. And they've done stuff that's maybe not supposed to do, and they work with me to do all that stuff. And I know it just has to be a percentage of polyester. The less polyester, the less vibrant. You just have to think about that. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
What would be like your favorite piece or favorite part about making like designs having to do with like your family and the culture and your background?
I think the favorite part is getting to see the end product in and on them, and seeing it in that place that it was created. When we finished the Puamelia project, my mom and dad actually got to take a photo in front of the tree, and we posted it for Prince Kuhio's birthday. And it was nice to just see that kind of full circle moment. We were waiting for our Hawaiian homes for so long, and it was literally the first tree. So it was just that significant moment, and that full circle moment where we got to see that come to life, I guess. And seeing my parents, they're old and they got to, live that Hawaiian homes moment, So I think just seeing that, whenever we create a print and seeing it come to life in that sense, where we see the inspiration and seeing the end product into a garment in front of the inspiration is really like that aha moment or that surprise moment for me. Yeah. Yes.
You said you make denim too?
No. Oh, we do make denim pieces, yeah.
As for that process, so you design and make them, I assume. Do you ever outsource any of those processes?
Not for denim, no. It is a harder process to outsource denim, and the cost for that is a lot higher. For denim pieces, whenever we create that, it's more of a... So I see denim in a different way. As when I create that, it's like, I don't see it as denim pants. I see it as like a more avant-garde skirt or top. We tried to do manufacturing for denim in Japan, and that was a lot higher to create. Yeah, the outsourcing of that is really expensive.
Quality better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And cheaper than US?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was cheaper, but it was, and the quality was better. But it's just hard. The disconnect with going overseas is a lot harder, and it's a lot more sampling. That's where you're at. Yeah. Yes.
I'm really interested in fashion show production.
Mhm.
So based on your experiences, what would you say is like something that makes like one show like stand out in comparison? Or as a designer as well, what do you usually want like highlighted in your shows?
I feel like the background or backdrop of a fashion show really helps the fashion show experience stand out. One, good lighting, seating, and organization for fashion show production. Those are the three things. But you can have a fashion show anywhere if you have those three things is key. And you can highlight anything anywhere. But those are the three things. But I think just your ambiance has to match with whatever the collection is inspired by. And making sure that the designer, you are getting the designer's voice across. But that you can put chairs, simple chairs or brick chairs in front of any street, I think, with simple lighting, and the fashion show can be amazing. I think when you put too much sparkle on things, it just becomes overdone, and that overshadows the clothes, and that's the focus. When the designer just wants that to be the main focus, and then the staging becomes a lot more. That's almost like when you put a presentation together and there's all these flashing things that's happening, that's overshadowing what the clothes look like. So you want it to be almost as minimal as possible. Yeah. But good organization is key whenever fashion show production is happening. Organization is the best, yeah. Anything else? Yes.
What do you think would be like some of the main challenges when you first started?
Not having the business acumen behind to start, and then two, money. Fashion designers usually never have money to start their huge ambition that they want to have, and not being able to scale back on all of these fabulous ideas that they want to do, and being able to juggle all of that. But having that business background, I think, is really important first to learn, because if you know you're creative, you can always have that, but learning the business side first, or finding a business partner to help you run that part, because you're not going to want to do that if you're creative. It's going to overshadow what you want to do. And one tip, if you are starting like your first collection, don't do all of it. If you have 50 ideas, don't do all of it in your first collection. If you're thinking of having the longevity in your brand for 10 years, space that 50 pieces within the 10 years. Start off really small and get to know who your customer is and reel them in with the 5 pieces and understand your customer first, and then spread it out within the next collection and the next collection, and you'll have all those ideas within the first 5 years. I think we invest so much in the first collection, all these ideas, and then we go broke by season 2 or season 3, and then everything goes on sale. So that's just my kind of feedback on that. That's always the case.
So
Sorry.
does anyone have equity within, like, I guess, your company, or how did you start? How did you get seed money, like for getting money?
It was family that invested, but it was just silent investors that I paid back during that time. Yeah.
When you started off, did you like pattern all your designs out yourself, or did you have a pattern maker to do it for you?
I started off really small, so we did it all ourselves. So we did it all ourselves, but it started off really tiny. So it grew, but we knew at that point that it was gonna get really big. So we knew to start off, to do it now rather than wait till later, because we knew all the work was gonna come. So even if you're starting off the first design, go ahead and do the grading for that one design, and really focus on the fit on that one design. Because everyone just goes with like 10 and they don't really focus on the fit on that one, and they just kind of grade everything, and they don't do the proper fitting for everything, and then they have to redo all those designs. But really focus on that and kind of perfect it first. But yes, we did it, and it took a long time, I'm gonna say, but it's better to be proactive and take care of it before than doing all the adjustments after, because it did take a long time. Any other questions? Yes.
Do you have any regrets or things that you wish you did differently throughout your career?
No, I don't think so. I don't have any regrets. I think everything I did helped me learn throughout the process. And if I didn't do it the way that I did, then I wouldn't have learned everything now. I think the way that I did it would have been easier, yes, if I did it like with the business classes or if that was learned prior. But I think it helped me learn quicker and gave me a little bit more backbone. But I don't regret anything that I did. And it just gave me a little bit more oomph, I guess. But yeah. Any more?
Was there any differences in curriculum between HCC and FIT?
There were some, but a lot of the class directives were the same. The draping class, the drafting class. So when I applied there, I thought the level of sewing or design was a lot higher. I guess it was like taught to me that your portfolio has to be immaculate to get in there. It has to be at this certain level. I don't know what it is now, but that's what it was taught to me at that time. And when I got there, the first day of class, it was like sitting at a sewing machine, and I just threaded my machine. And everybody else just sat there waiting for the professor to teach us how to thread the sewing machine. And everybody looked at me and was like, how did you know that? I'm like, I thought you're supposed to know this kind of stuff. And then the professor taught us how, and I was like, well, this is like knowledge that you just know already. But then throughout the class, I just did stuff, even with draping, just like basic bodice draping. I did everything prior. So everybody was questioning me, like, how did you know this already? I'm like, oh, I went to school for this stuff already. I thought at that level, going to FIT, you're supposed to know all of this. Or like getting in here, you send a portfolio of what you did to get in here. So you are supposed to know it already. So I don't know why you guys don't know this kind of stuff. So that was my question to them. And they were like, what are you doing here? Why are you even doing these classes again? And it was like almost, I think it was level 2 draping. And they didn't know how to do a certain amount of things. And the students were questioning me or asking me for help at that point. And that's when I had to talk to my advisor and try to get me into like a higher level, but there was no, I guess, test to take at that time to get into a higher course for FIT. But yeah, that was back then. That was in 2004, 5.
Do you know if there are like placement exams now?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know. I should inquire. Anything else? We're good?
Going once, going twice.
What makes your collection and your brand unique and different to others, other collections?
For us, I feel like we look at our print says something, tells a story, and with every collection, we look at color story and color theory. We do follow like Pantone color theory, and we look at, I think what sets us apart is our print is a little bit more different than a lot of other brands. And then our design aesthetic is a little bit more out there. I design a little bit more outside of the box, and it's a little bit scale. I think that's what separates us as the Kini Zamora brand. People come to me if they want to stand out in a room and walk into a room and be noticed, rather than fit in. That's the Kini Zamora brand.
And nobody else in the room should be wearing it, right?
Right, yes.
So being from Hawaii and moving to New York, how did you adapt from the environment and like how did you feel about it?
I was scared at first, and just getting to know the city. I didn't let it absorb who I was, but I needed to just, in the beginning, I think the scared part of me kept me to myself. And it was really hard for me not to show like our aloha spirit or just to be nice. But you learn really quickly going to New York that it can get used really quickly. So you have to learn your independence, and they're not trying to be rude up there, but you are alone up there. And it's a different type of ball game and personality up there. Everyone is just trying to do their own job and their own thing. It's a different type of personality in New York, and everyone's just trying to be somewhere, and it's nothing against you personally. They are just trying to do their own thing. I think that's where you learn that nobody's paying attention to you. They're only paying attention to themselves. Even at a table, I learned there that you can be at a Chinese restaurant on a round table and eat by yourself with 3 other families sitting there. And nobody cares who you are. They're just doing the same thing. They're trying to enjoy their lunch. They're trying to finish their lunch, and they're trying to go to work right after. So that's what I've learned within day 2. And that's what you'll learn really quickly in New York. I think any tourist going to New York can learn that as well too. But yeah, I think that's what New York has to offer.
How were you able to make money while being a student in New York?
I worked. Yeah, you still have to work. I worked in a dental office when I was in New York. And I lived outside. I live in New Jersey while I was in New York. So it's like right over. It's literally, it's an island. It's right over. Yeah, it's really quick. It's a subway away, yeah. But you can find any old job there, anything to help you pay rent. Yeah, it's cheaper right outside, or like upstate, yeah. Anything else? This is back in 2004 or 5, so I don't know the difference now. This is, yeah, stayed in a box that was like $1,500 back then. It was a 1-bedroom box.
The boxes are probably 1/3 of the size now.
Exactly.
And twice the price.
Things are really different.
Okay, I have one last question. If you were designing a design for yourself based on a plant, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, that's a hard question. You ever thought of that? Maybe a palm tree? Yeah, a palm tree. Because of the leaves, it like casts shade, and there's a lot of branches, I guess.
Yeah. A lot of branches, just
And,
like you
yeah.
with your family. I see it. I look forward to seeing that in a future collection.
Yeah, that would be me. Just off the top of my head, that would be me.
Well, with the thread of the coconut rhinoceros beetle, they may become more and more rare. So, capture the image for the future.
There you go.
All right, let's go ahead and give Kini a big mahalo for being with us tonight.